Hey everybody, welcome to the Life, Love, and Existential Dread podcast. Love that title. My name, it's got all these, oh man, just love every single word in that title. My name's Bryan Nathan. I'm broadcasting from sunny Los Angeles, California. My co-host, let him introduce himself. Go ahead.
I'm Nathan Shelton, and I am broadcasting from disturbingly cold Chicago, and it's dark as hell here right now. It's just the pit of despair. But I love it.
Love living there. Love taking, yeah. Leaving them, that's the Midwest for you, man. You never know what's going to come. Even in December, it could be hot, it could be cold. You don't know. In California, Bryan, same thing. You don't know.
2 days ago, it was in the 60s, and I was out in just this hoodie and a t-shirt, walking the dog, and went for a long walk around the neighborhood. Stopped up. I walked like 15 minutes away and picked up a Starbucks, and then came back, and it was just, it was glorious. And then overnight, we had this crazy wind, right? When, the windstorms hit for 2 nights here in the Midwest, we had all the tornadoes and stuff hit here. And I'm in an old house. You can maybe see behind me, but I'm in an old house that has 4 apartments in it. And the winds were blowing so hard that while I was up here working in the studio, I could feel the house swaying.
Whoa.
Like it was hitting, and it felt like what I imagine it feels like for you guys having earthquakes. That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is crazy. So I took a melatonin when I had to go to sleep that night and just, popped the fan on so I couldn't hear it because the wind was creaking the house. It was so, But anyway, that wind brought with it icy, chill weather. I mean, we haven't had any precipitation really, but it's freezing outside for the last 2 days, and I'm all gunked up now because whenever the weather changes like that, it's like growing up in Missouri. It's the same way, It's like the weather changes on a dime. You're in shorts and a t-shirt in the morning, and by the evening, it's like snow boots, and It's so ridiculous. I'm done with it. I'm so done with it.
What's that phrase? It's Missouri and Midwest, Illinois, of course, too. It's the only place in the United States where you can use your heater and your air conditioner in the same day. You can. Yeah. That's the way it is.
Yeah, they do. I think it's done on purpose by the government to make us have higher utility bills. That's what I think. Never in the middle. It's always one extreme or the other.
Exactly. Yeah. Of course. Well, there were some high winds out. We get these really strong winds called the Santa Ana winds out here. And it was a few days ago. And of course, there's palm trees all over the place. And there were palm trees you could see visibly swaying in the wind. I couldn't believe how much they were moving. It was like an upside down pendulum of Big Bend or something like that. It was I couldn't believe how much they were moving,
Do coconuts fall off of those things? Coconuts are in those trees, right? Are palm trees coconut trees, or is that a different thing?
I think that's a different thing because there's a palm tree in the center of my apartment complex, and the only thing that falls off it are dead palms.
Palm fronds.
And then some guy like shimmies up the trunk of it and like cleans them off and everything to make it look like a normal palm tree. But they, just like regular leaves, they just kind of die and turn brown over the course of a few months. Okay. And every so often this guy comes and trims them. But I've never seen a coconut. So
are there different kinds of palm trees? Because don't coconut trees look a lot like palm trees? I mean, they're similar, right? Being from the Midwest, these are things I don't know. These are things I just don't. I mean, and I know that palm trees aren't native to L.A. or California, to the U.S. They were brought here, but I've read that before. But
I have no idea either, and I've lived in both places, Missouri for many years, California for many years. I have no idea either, but I've never seen a coconut fall off this palm tree that's in my apartment complex. But it will let me know whenever there are high winds. He is. Yeah, he comes in.
He's shimmying up the tree and stealing coconuts.
He cuts off the dead leaves and takes the coconuts, and then, he's gone. I don't know.
Bastard.
Oh man. Well, that's the way it is. California. You do what you can to do. People do their jobs, and that's the way it is. He may be stealing coconuts. I have no idea. All I know is it looks really good. When he's done with it, it looks great. Like a normal palm.
I'm sure they pay him a lot of money to do it. Hopefully.
Yeah. What you would think a palm tree would look like. So.
Right. I mean, they're really tall, too. They grow super, super tall.
Yeah, some of them unbelievably tall. I mean, I want to estimate maybe some of the taller ones I've seen as tall as 3 or 4 stories of a building. That's why I'm saying some of these high winds really make them move. And I couldn't believe how strong some of these, I've never seen that before after 16 years of living here. But the Santa Ana winds are very strong and just rustle up everything, and just a really strong winds this time of year.
Do they come from Santa Ana, like from that area? Or like, I'm not sure where Santa Ana is from LA.
It's south of LA. I'm not exactly sure where. North of Orange County, I believe. I'm not sure. All you geography buffs will correct me on that, whoever listening. But it's named for Santa Ana, the Mexican conquistador, something like that. And there's these winds that come off the mountains that are warm air, and they blow all over the place around this time of year, October, November, into December. So that's just something you got to deal with.
That's about
and
as much
really strong
Christmas weather that you get there.
Exactly. Although it's been getting down to 38, 37 degrees at night, which is
really
highly unusual. Yeah, that's very that's a
Has that
new
happened
thing.
since you've been out there?
A couple of times, but this year it's quite a bit colder at night. These last few days.
That's so weird, because here in Chicago, it's actually been a lot warmer this time of year than it normally is. I mean, to have a 60-degree day, I think it even got up to like 63 or 64. This time of year in December, that's unheard of here. I mean, that rarely happens. So we're having kind of a warm winter, but I mean, like I said, it just snaps right back. So I'm guessing winter's going to hit late again, and come February, we're going to be in snow.
Oh yeah, probably. Yeah, just switches every other day, something like that. But I remember previous years, I ride my bike for exercise, and I got this bike trail real close by, and I'm out in shorts and a t-shirt riding my bike, middle of December, middle of January, no problem. This year, not so much. It's too cold. It's too cold to do that. So
yeah, I don't even like going out to walk the dog. It's so cold. I used to not mind the cold when I was a younger man, but now that I'm getting older, I'm like, I don't like it anymore. It's weird. I used to be so hot-blooded that I would have to wear a t-shirt even in the the wintertime, because I was so hot-blooded. I just couldn't. And now, I'm done with it. I don't want to do cold. I mean, is that what old age is? Is just your body completely just saying no to the things that you said yes to when you were younger? It just keeps happening like that. Like everything.
I guess so.
Have fun.
I know. No,
Drink
you can't
all
have
this.
fun.
No. Do these drugs. No.
Have you're too old to have.
No, I can't. Just every step, every year of life is a new saying of no.
Just complete rejection on every aspect of life that's anything worth doing. Absolutely, yeah. It's no.
Until it's finally live more. No.
No. We're done. But I do know older people get colder easier. I do know that.
Is it a circulation thing?
I believe it's a circulation issue. They just.
What about heavy set
older
people? Because I'm a husky guy. I used to shop in the husky section, which they don't have anymore. Probably for a good thing. I don't see, but I remember going to the store. We were shopping for me as a child, and it husky, like boys husky, and I would feel embarrassed doing it, but I'd shop there and be like, I'm a husky. But now I think everybody's so concerned with mental health, and rightfully so. I mean, we didn't care. It was the 80s. We didn't give a shit about mental health back then.
Yeah, nobody cared.
Nobody cared about anything. Political correctness, nothing. No, it's like, no. But yeah, that's kind of weird that they don't have that anymore. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. What about us? What about us husky guys? I feel like I've got blubber that's supposed to help you stay warm. I'm covered in a thick layer of fur. Why? It's like I'm half Sasquatch on my mother's side or something like that. It's like, why would I get cold? You would look at me and be like, oh, that guy's warm all year round. But no, I'm not. I'm freezing.
Doesn't work that way. Yeah. And I wish they had a Sasquatch section in the store, because then you know exactly where to go. It's like, look, these are all the clothes for Sasquatch
over
people.
Husky. Yeah, I'd take Sasquatch over Husky any day.
That's at least
that's
a
badge
cut
of honor.
above.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, that's the little Sasquatch kid. I'd take it.
Yeah.
I'd love that.
Where'd you get your clothes? I went to the Sasquatch section, not the Husky section. I've upgraded. Okay, that's just the way it is now. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No more big and tall. You just have
Yeah, yeah.
Giant and Sasquatch.
No, I did the same thing too. My mom bought me husky jeans, and things like that. It's the same thing, but you just, yeah,
Now
you
they
don't
have
see those things anymore.
Flex fit
Flex
jeans.
fix, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
got
flex
some kind of elastic band on jeans. What the hell is that
for
about? I don't
pregnant
understand.
males. Yeah, exactly. To fit your changing body. Stop my body from changing.
Yeah. No. Yeah, I like to put on those tighter jeans or just, hey, you were once this thin, you moron. Stop, stop eating pizza, stop drinking beer, and get back into the shape and fit in these jeans. So it's a little bit of a reminder for me to try and do that every once in a while.
Hey, I have a whole closet full of those reminders, my friend. I have like two pairs of pants I can fit in one pair of shorts, and just a plethora of t-shirts that I can fit in, and that's it. There's so many things in my like nice button-up shirts and suits and stuff like that I can't. Yeah. I can't even look at them anymore. I go in my closet and it's just so depressing. Like,
yeah.
Oh
no, same thing. Yeah, I only got one suit, and I'm sure I haven't tried it on in years actually. So I'm sure I don't fit in that either.
Well, COVID did it. COVID. I blame COVID. It's myself, and I know that. I know that, but COVID. I mean, I sat on my ass for 2 years doing nothing but hunching over a computer. So I've gotten fatter, hairier. My eyesight's going from looking at screens all day and all night long. And I'm just lethargic in general. So it's like I feel like I've been getting more exercise lately, but there for a while I was feeling like, man, I've aged 10 years prematurely,
Within 2 years, yeah.
Within 2 years, yeah. It's like a rapid forward jump in time. And now I'm like, God, when the weather gets nice again, I'm going to get out of the house. I'm going to do, every time I go to visit my wife in Mexico, because my wife, she's Mexican, and we're working with immigration to get her here. I don't know if we mentioned that on the front call, but so I go to Mexico a lot because she can't get into the country yet, and it's a long and expensive process. So I go to Mexico every few months and spend as much time as I possibly can there. And when I go, we walk everywhere. We walk all over the place, all over the neighborhoods. We love to stay in an area called Roma Norte. And she lives we have a little apartment in an area that I can't pronounce. It's pre-Hispanic. It's not Spanish, which I suck at Spanish too. She's teaching me. She speaks very amazing English, but also, is irritated that I'm not picking up Spanish as fast. But she's been studying English for years, by the way.
Yeah, right.
Slack. So it's cut
you a little slack there.
Right. I mean, we've been together for a couple of years. It's not like I'm not, and I don't work on it near as much as I should. But the pre-Hispanic names there are really difficult to say. It's like I can't even do it. Tlanaltlapan or something like that. I can't. Like Teotihuacan, the ruins that are usually ascribed to being Aztec, the Temple of the Sun, the Temple of the Moon, right outside of Mexico City. Yeah, they're not actually Aztec. They're way older than Aztec. The Aztecs found the ruins and built upon them, but they were from the Teotihuacans, which are like pre-Hispanic. The Aztec people, they're also pre-Hispanic, or Spanish rule, Spanish coming in, conquistadors coming into Mexico and taking over and killing everyone and raping everyone, and but all those pre-Hispanic names, they still exist there, and they have a lot of native people there that speak, and do, and that it's a weird, beautiful language, and I cannot get my tongue around it. It's all consonants and very little vowels. It's so hard. I don't know how we got on this subject, but walking in Mexico. Everywhere in Mexico City. Yeah. I walk everywhere in Mexico City, and the weather there is always nice. If it's raining, it's beautiful. If it's sunny, it's beautiful. And I love visiting there, and the people are so warm and amazing, and I love the open air markets and little cafes, and yeah. So I get my exercise when I go there, but unfortunately, I only go every few months, and I only go for like 2.5 weeks at a time. So it's not enough to sustain to make this into the Greek Adonis that it used to be.
That we all want to be, yes. We all see ourselves as, but never will happen. I remember this, I forget it was Walter Payton. I forget which one it was. It was one of the Payton brothers. And they're saying and people are asking them, it's like, well, how do you say in such good shape, being a football player, getting a little older? And he says, well, or like, I'm a 40-year-old man and I want to get a six pack. And he says, yeah, it's probably not going to happen. So you should just start buying bigger shirts, So I think about that all the time. It's like, oh yeah, I want to be in good shape and, have a six pack, whatever, but it's not going to happen at this time.
I mean, it can.
Maybe 20 years ago, but not now.
It is possible that it could happen. You could do it, but it takes a dramatic life change. It's not like a small increment. I mean, you could lose a lot of weight. You could get more in shape, but to be like cut, without Marvel money pouring into your pocket for, from somebody trying to push you to get into shape to be in a movie or something, you're not gonna, because you're talking daily, hourly devotion to your body. And it takes a whole mind reset, body reset, spirit reset, everything.
Yeah, tremendous amount of self-discipline, with I don't think many 40-year-old men, American men anyway, don't have. You just kind of accept it and just let it go.
Yeah,
you could have done it when you were 20, but you didn't, and now you're 40, and it's not going to happen. This is the way it is. Yeah,
that bill comes due. That bill comes due, man. It's like learn, and then young people don't want to listen to older people. I suppose we're not old, but young people don't want to listen. But it's like, I wish that I would have listened to more older people back then when I was younger and didn't just be like, okay. I mean, I hate the whole okay boomer thing. I'm not a boomer, right? None of us are, but my kids joke and say that, and I get so irritated with them because, first of all, I think it's very disrespectful to old people, but also it's just like, old people tell you things because they've lived it and they know it and they're trying to help you. Usually. Right. Some people are just dicks, but for the most part, people are just trying to help you. When I say things to my kids like, listen, if you don't get in the habit now, it's not going to happen. And there's a reason I'm telling you this. I'm trying to help you. Stop getting in your own way. Stop arguing with me and just understand that I've lived life more than twice longer than you. And have gone through stuff that you hopefully will never have to go through, and many things that I hope you do go through. But like, come on, you're not going to live forever, and you're not going to, they say that the young people think that they're going to live forever. I used to be like, I don't think I'm going to live forever, but in a way we do. I think we don't care about getting older or mortality. We don't start to think about how things affect you physically, because if you hurt yourself, you heal so quickly. You mess up your knee and your knee, is fine in 2 days or whatever. And, now it's like I sleep wrong on my back and I can't, it lays me out for 3 days. I'm like, oh my God, every time I stand up or sit down, and I'm like, I'm not even 40 yet. I'm 39. And, it's like you have that milestone of 40, and it's like as soon as that goes over, it's like, well, parts of me are going to start falling off. That's what I think. Right. That's what I feel like is going to happen. But not the weight, just like chunks of,
right?
Just, I don't know. Like my left nipple will be on the floor or something. Hopefully not. That'd be weird.
No, I remember being 25, 26, and I was like, man, I'm going to be freaking immortal my whole life. I will, indestructible. Never broken a bone in my life. Never really got hurt that much. I can do anything I want. But then you get to be older and like, oh boy. I'm having trouble, walking down a flight of stairs, like losing my balance or something. If I don't hold on to the freaking railing, Oh my God.
Every morning, Brian, I have a 2-story apartment. And every morning I go downstairs and I go, one step, one step, one step. Like all the time. I can't do it otherwise because I'm so stiff every morning. And not in the way that I used to be stiff when I was younger in the morning. But
Or like a little kid, you take one step and your other foot comes on. You take another step, your other foot goes up. You just go that slowly because you need to.
Yeah, it is. It's
then I'm on the second floor as well. So I got to I got my bike on my shoulder and I'm walking down the stairs. I was like, slow down. Like one of these days, I'm going to miss a step and just go end over end.
It's like an Ironman race for you.
Right. Yeah. And I was like, I know it. And the really hard stone, there's no carpet on it. There's this really hard stone stairs that I was like, I'm going to die one of these times carrying my bike up and down these stairs. I just know it.
If you miss one of our calls, I'm going to know what happened.
You're going to know immediately. Yeah. It's like, well, I just lost my luck. It's just happened one time. I knew it was going to happen. Therefore it did. So I don't know.
That's what happened. It's weird that you mentioned that because I was just watching this very great documentary on Kurt Vonnegut last night that's on Amazon. Yeah. I don't know if you're a Kurt Vonnegut fan. I am not a Kurt Vonnegut fan. I've never read anything by Kurt Vonnegut, but my brother is a huge Kurt Vonnegut fan, and I know a lot of other people that are, and I love hearing him talk. I've listened to interviews and things over the years. Well, there's this documentary, and I watched a trailer, and I'm like, well, I have to watch this, and I love learning new things about people and things, so I watched this documentary last night. And did you know that's how he actually died, is he got a head injury from falling down his front steps in New York, and he hit his head and he died pretty quickly. He was like 80, he was 84, I think, 83 or 84 when he died. But yeah.
Wow. I mean, I again, same thing. I know of him. I never read a book of his, but man, that's
it's a
tragic.
really beautiful documentary. It was really an interesting documentary. If you have any interest, I do recommend it. It's I can't remember the man's name who directed it, but he's the creator and primary director of the Larry David show, Curb Your Enthusiasm. He's good friends with Larry David. Yeah. Anyway, he had been working on this documentary since the 80s. He's been friends with Kurt Vonnegut since then, and he wanted to do it, but he kept putting it off. He didn't know quite how to unlock it, and so part of the documentary is him over this 30-year span trying to figure out how to make the documentary and then putting it all together and talking about Vonnegut's life while also their friendship that they've made over the years and their intertwined lives. And it was really, really a fascinating documentary. If you're into documentaries. Right. If you're not, then don't watch that.
I'd much rather watch something like that, a real thing, a real story, rather than some kind of thing that's, maybe not that entertaining or not that well made. I'd much rather read something about a true story than anything else. So
yeah,
I don't know why. And as the older I get, the older we get, it's like that. I'd much rather watch something like a documentary or a true story or something like that. It's just It's like, okay, this is really happening. This person really lived. This thing really happened to this person. What have you? It's just more interesting because it's real.
Exactly. My parents and my grandmother and stuff, when I was growing up, they always would watch the news. And I always got so bored by the news. I was like, oh, come on. I don't want to watch the news. I don't want to know what's going on. I don't care about this. Definitely didn't care about politics. I didn't even get to caring about politics until, until I started backing Bernie Sanders. Really, and so he made me care about politics again. Because I'm like, here's a guy who gets it. But anyway, so I never wanted to watch anything like that. And if my dad watched, unless it had something to do with monsters and like true monsters or something like that, like cryptids or paranormal stuff or aliens or some shit like that, I never wanted to watch it. But now that I'm older, not only do I want to learn more, and I do love learning, and I love, figuring stuff out, but I also just enjoy how those movies are made. I enjoy the artistry of the documentary and how, because as a director and producer myself, what I enjoy watching how we're being manipulated by whatever content we're consuming. So like, how are they manipulating my emotions right now? How are they,
right.
You know what I mean? And
totally.
I really enjoy watching documentaries to see, okay, well, what, the music that they use, how they're cutting the interviews, things like that. It's like, well, okay, how is this thing put together? How much of it is, recreation, how much of it is interview, how much of it is musicality and sound effects or sound design. I mean, what's the end game of this? Is it to stir some sort of, like, especially like those shows like Ancient Aliens and stuff like that? It's so gimmicky and so commercial and so goofy, but sometimes fun to watch, like a popcorn thing. Like you just want to watch it and watch that guy with the crazy hair be a nut job, and you're like, oh, this is awesome. Because I actually do believe in ancient alien theory. I actually do believe in extraterrestrial life, interdimensional life and stuff like that. But those shows, it's almost like they're just designed to, I don't know, entertainment value. There's nothing, it's like they're not even trying anymore to do anything, like to actually give evidence. I mean, that show's been on for how long now? That one, just talking about that. It's been, how can they're saying the same thing over and over again. I mean, how many episodes have they had about the pyramids in Egypt? How many episodes have they had about,
Enough to make me not want to watch it anymore. because it's not very well. It's not very
it's
well
not
made.
well made at all. It's always like,
and it's
could it be ancient aliens? I think yes. And like, why?
Anything could be.
Right,
yes, you've made a very good statement there. Anything could be. Yeah, I'm aware of that. But let's try proving it and stop making all these grandiose hypotheses that
I think there's much.
It's hard to believe what they're saying on those things.
Right. I agree. I think there's much better documentaries out there on that subject. But
oh yeah.
But there's still great TV documentary shows out there. I love stuff about how movies got speaking of like popcorn documentaries, like the kind that are like, just entertainment value, but still give you good content. Those how movies that made us or toys that made us. Those documentaries I think are actually really great documentaries, and they are very entertaining, but they also do have a lot of great information, especially because it's tied into nostalgia, right? And it's really, I mean, we're in that target demographic for that show. I mean, it's all about toys from our youth and shows from when we were growing up, and but I really like those shows, and they are very, very cheesy and popcorny and funny and goofy, but it doesn't take itself too seriously, and you still learn a lot. I mean, there's a lot of great information in that. It's not a lot of great interviews, and they interview people that you don't always hear talking from the production side of things. It's always, for the Alien one, it's not just Sigourney Weaver or Ridley Scott talking, or these actors. It's a few of the actors, but it's mainly the effects people and the producers and even the marketing and money people and stuff like that, and how it got made. It's pretty cool.
Well, and there's like a recent thing about that, and how the poster for Aliens. I mean, this is James Cameron's sequel to Alien, and he was going in to talk to the studio executive, and they wanted to do this other poster thing, and he's talking to him. He says, "No, all I want is a black background with aliens on it. That's what I want." And the studio executive trying to talk to him, and it was the studio executive's last day on the job. He got fired or something like that. And so he's just trying to get this guy, James freaking Cameron, out of his office.
This guy.
And And he got this great movie, and they're trying to figure out how to market it. And he said, "No, I want a poster James Cameron said something to the effect of, I just want a poster with a black background. That's all I want." And that's what ended up being the poster and made it just so much more mysterious. Like, what is this movie sequel about? All it is the title, Aliens, with a black background. And it just, amped up the anticipation for that movie to come out. But it was a total accident. It was a total joke between James Cameron and this executive who no longer works there.
Wow! I remember watching that episode.
Man, I love stuff like that, man. That's great,
do too. And that's why I love watching documentary shows or documentary movies. Absolutely. Yeah. Have you watched the one on the Ghostbusters? It's great.
I've seen one where, and a lot of what they do is they follow the fan base of Ghostbusters, and the one aspect that I really recognized was that they are not trying to imitate, Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, Harold Ramis, whatever. They're not trying to imitate those guys. The fans of Ghostbusters are Ghostbusters themselves. So when they wear the costume, it's their name on the on the jumpsuit rather than like Venkman or whatever. And I was like, oh man, that's another level of fandom.
Yeah, they have it's kind of like Stormtroopers with Star Wars. It's the same kind of thing, right? Like they have the 501st or whatever they are, the Stormtrooper divisions, and people make their own armor. It's kind of like a badge of honor to make your own armor or to have it made by somebody who's a master armorer and not just buy it online. So they have these kits to do it and to buy, out of PVC and all that stuff. And it's really cool. They do that with Ghostbusters. There's actually some friends of mine back in Springfield who have a whole chapter of that and do that.
Right.
And and they go to conventions and stuff.
Yeah, and that's one aspect of Ghostbusters that I didn't realize, but that's totally true. They're not trying to be, Peter Venkman, Bill Murray, whatever. They are themselves, and I was like, man, that's another level that doesn't exist in any other kind of franchise. Star Trek, everybody tries to be Kirk or Picard or whatever it is, a Klingon, but they don't try to be themselves as a character in the movie, which is what Ghostbusters does, and that makes it distinguishes above the other ones.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. The I haven't seen that documentary. I know the documentary you're talking about, but I haven't seen that documentary. That's a movie. The episode specifically of how movies that made us, that I actually watched it last night, and they were talking about Ghostbusters. I watched the Ghostbusters episode, and I knew growing up that there was the Ghostbusters and the real Ghostbusters. Do you remember that whole thing, right? That almost caused the movie to not have the title, because Columbia Pictures had all these issues. They started making the movie and they had the title Ghostbusters. But they were talking about, and I don't know if you remember this from when we were kids, but the Ghostbusters, and then there was a cartoon called The Real Ghostbusters, which had some characters, and they had a big like ape in a flight cap or something.
Yes,
right?
I watched that religiously because I love Ghostbusters.
Right. Well, and they had that opening credit sequence where they like went into the void and like in their car thing, and then there was like a monster zombie mummy guy playing an organ or something that was the main bad guy. Well, apparently that cartoon started out as a live action TV show called Ghostbusters, and it was owned by Funimation, the company that put out He-Man. And
okay.
Right. And so they owned the name, and Columbia had already put up a lot of money to get some of the people in Ghostbusters, you know, and the budget was getting bigger and bigger. They're shooting in New York and all this stuff, and it's got tons of VFX, right? And, you know, like an unheard of amount, especially for a comedy. Nobody had done a comedy with that much special effects in it, you know, and it just kept, Ivan Reitman was just throwing new effects into the script with the guys and stuff, and it was crazy. And they pulled half of the people from ILM away because, you know, Ben Edlund, I can't remember, Edlund, you know, didn't like his job there, and so he took this whole crew and they created their own company for Ghostbusters to figure out how to do this stuff, and they didn't have very long to do it. So they were pouring money into all this stuff to get it to work. And so Columbia didn't want to pay for the name Ghostbusters. And so there was this whole fight over it. They didn't want to pay for it. So they started shooting Ghostbusters with Ghostbusters, and then right after they would get a shot, they'd change it to Ghost Breakers.
Are you kidding me?
And they did it double for a lot of that. They shot both. Isn't that weird?
I had no idea about that, and I thought I knew a lot about Ghostbusters. Jeez.
Right. Yeah, so they started shooting it. And, Ghost Breakers. It's a shitty name. So they've got Ghost
dumbest
Breakers.
Thing ever, man.
Right. They've got Ghost Breakers, they've got Ghostbusters, and they all loved Ghostbusters, but they couldn't clear the name yet. They didn't know if they were going to have it cleared. So they shot both for a long time. They shot both, and even like the scene where they're putting up the sign, and Venkman's like, you know, are you sure that the sign's big enough? I mean, people aren't going to not see the sign, right? You know, he's being like sarcastic with him. They shot that twice with Ghostbusters, Ghost Breakers. But then that scene where they pull up and all the crowd, they had like, I don't know, 300 extras or something out there in New York screaming, Ghostbusters, Ghostbusters, Ghost. That was the moment that their production people, they were like, we're not doing this anymore. This is bullshit. We're not going to have everybody.
You can't say
right.
freaking Ghost Breakers. Give me a freaking break. I'm
right.
sorry to use the word break after Breakers, but that's that's the dumbest name I've ever heard.
It is.
Come on.
But it's not just is it dumb, but like to shoot everything twice. That's a lot. You got to shoot everything from every angle one way, and then you got to go and do it again. You got to take every line and do it again. It's a lot of work. And for people who aren't in the film industry, it's a lot of work to do it. I mean, just to get one shot is a lot of work. So one of the production people, they got on a phone, on a payphone downtown while they were all chanting, and they called the head of the studio, and they held up the phone, and you could hear everybody in the background yelling, Ghostbusters, Ghostbusters. And he's like, that's the title. We're not doing this anymore. I think I was like,
people have spoken. Come on.
Right. So they were
That's one of the greatest comedies of all time. I don't care what anybody else says. I love that movie. It's the greatest sci-fi comedies of all time. You cannot change the name. You just can't.
Well, it gets resolved, though, which is cool because they still hadn't paid for it, right? Columbia Coca-Cola had bought Columbia Pictures at that time. So Coca-Cola, after it was greenlit, Coca-Cola bought it, and they tried to put the kibosh on it, but the head honcho at Columbia Pictures was like, no, Ghostbusters is going to be huge. It's going to be a great movie, and I've already greenlit it, and I really feel like it's going to be amazing. So he put all of it, he was full steam ahead, but he did not get along with Coke. So he quit Columbia Pictures, but he quickly got picked up by, I don't remember who he got picked up by, Universal maybe, or somebody, and their subsidiaries owned Funimation. So he said, give him the title. Because he wanted the movie to get made. So he went ahead and gave it over anyway. So, yeah.
Oh, love that. I love that little end run deal there, man. I love stuff like that, man. And that surprises me too, is how fast these executives go in and out of all the studios. They hop back and forth, doing all this stuff. It blows my mind. You hear some of these stories about some of these people switching hands about stuff, and same stories. I love this project. I'm going to take it over to this new studio I'm going to and try to make it there, and then something falls through, and then some other way it gets made. It's nonstop with that stuff,
which is why I say it's a miracle.
Project.
It's always a miracle when a big movie actually gets made, when any movie gets made, because from script to distribution, it's just like there's so much. There's more that could go wrong than what could go right to make a movie, with all the different people that have to go through it, all the money that goes into. I mean, people, I think, when you're young and you're in school and you want to be an actor, you want to be a director, a producer, or whatever, you don't always realize that it's a business first and foremost, and that everything else, all the artistry, is really second to the business, and that any artistry that does remain in it is only there if it serves the purpose of making money. So if your artistry is and it doesn't matter about being good or not, it doesn't. It's not, because that's subjective, but it does matter. I mean, obviously it has to be of a certain caliber to make money, but like schlock movies make money too, booby blood movies, make money. But if you have like stars attached, you have all these, and then everybody wants creativity, their own creativity. So you have a script that's a great script, and you have a director, and he's a great director, or she's a great director, or they're a great director, and they come in and they start working on the movie, and they have a vision, but then your lead actor, who is really the box office draw because they're the one that the name that's carrying the movie and people are going to go see, like let's say Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise comes in and he goes, no, I love the script, I love it, but I want to do it with a limp, and I want to set it in Morocco. And you're like, but this is a movie about a bicyclist who is in New York City, and he's like, yeah, I know, but I want to do it in Morocco, and I want to do it, not just a limp. I want to only have one leg. Well, how are you going to be a bicyclist? It can be done. But this is based on a real person's life. I know. And I've talked to him, and I paid him a lot of money, and now it's this, and this is the real story now. And so it's by the time it gets to the end, it's like, not only is what it set out to be completely changed, but so many people had their input, and people get money falls through, money gets on, it goes through all, it's just a never ending revolving nightmare of all these things that could put it down. When you get into production, even how many movies get done and shelved happens all the time. I'm sure you've seen a ton of that stuff happen out there. Big movies too, not just like post-production hell where it never gets done. The movies get done. They're packaged. They're ready to go. Major stars in it. Nothing happens. Lost movies.
I've heard several story. Alec Baldwin's in the news recently because of that whole thing with that movie he's on, Rust, and Sandra Bullock had a movie that was in the can and everything. It sat on the shelf for 2 years or something like that before it got into theaters and everything. But one story that I can tell everyone and our listeners and everything is about Seth MacFarlane when he was making the Ted movies. And he had a great script and everything. He went into all these meetings, and they loved what he was doing. Ted came out and was a big hit. It was the highest grossing rated R movie ever in the history of, I think it was Universal.
Oh, okay. I was like, in the history of film, really? But
no,
you said
in
just Universal.
highest rated R movie in the history of Universal. Okay, and so after that, he signed a 12-picture deal with Universal. All right, Seth signed that deal, and so they made Ted 2, and he was in these, and I was still friends with him at the time. I used to, for those people. I used to work on Family Guy as an orchestrator. I wasn't best friends with Seth, but I talked to him every once in a while. We chatted about things, and he was talking about. He was in a meeting about his future movies and doing 12 movies with Universal. And there was such a cacophony of conversation in some conference room meeting that he was in. And it got so bad, he just left the room and then got to his lawyers and said, "Hey, I want out of this 12-picture deal." And he was so annoyed with what you're talking about, getting into these meetings and people rewriting your things and taking over some of this stuff. Is like, it was just unbearable. And so, now what he does is, of course, that Orville TV show where he's in complete control. No one else is pulling the strings on it, So I hear what you're saying, and that's a true story. Seth told me that himself, and it goes on of course it goes on all the time. Everybody wants to put their hand in the pot and get in there and do stuff, but they shouldn't. Most of them, they shouldn't.
Oh no, especially producers. I mean, the suits don't have a creative bone in their body. All they're thinking about is money and we've seen data that seems to support that people enjoy seeing frogs in movies. So we really like you to add some frogs into this, and really needs to be a main part of the story. Something stupid like that. And you're like, oh, yeah. There's even a pitch game. I don't know if you've ever seen it. I can't remember what it's called. It's like The Perfect Pitch. We have it actually, and I played it with the kids, where it's all about Hollywood pitching, where you have these cards and it gives you a character and a plot, and you have to put them together, and then you have to pitch within 30 seconds. You have to pitch something with those two cards, but then anybody else in the group can throw down another alt modifier for you, that's great, but we need this to be a vampire love story. And then you have to change your pitch to that. I think it's called Pitch Storm. I think that's what it's called, Pitch Storm. And we have the base game, and then the horror, alternate version of it, or an enhancement, or whatever they call it. Yeah.
Oh man, I love that. That's like perfect training. You want to be involved in Hollywood, be able to play that game and win at that game. Oh yeah,
be able to just kill your ideas on the spot and kick them while they're down.
Yeah. You've been writing the script for years, and all of a sudden, somebody throws something else in. Hey, we need a desert. We need a desert scene in this one. Can we make some cactus or something like that? No, we're in the middle of New York City. It's a rom-com thing. There's no desert in New York City. What the hell are you talking about? It makes no sense. So,
yeah.
But that's the business.
That's the business.
I'm sort of part of it, but not really. And you hear these stories all the time. And you mentioned Tom Cruise earlier. I gave you a story about Tom Cruise and the Mission Impossible series. It was the first Mission Impossible 1. He was a producer on it. I don't know that he was executive producer yet, but he was a producer on it, so he had a lot of control. And they first hired Alan Silvestri to write the music to Mission Impossible 1. All right, he wrote the whole entire score. Okay, and then while they were in the recording studio, they were recording the last bit of part of the score, and someone called Tom Cruise and said, maybe the music's not working. All right. And they had a cell phone, and he said, and Tom Cruise told this person that were in the recording studio, hold the phone up to a speaker and let me hear the music. And so they played a little bit of the music, holding a phone up to the speaker. 5 to 10 seconds of Alan Silvestri's score, one of the greatest A-list composers to this day. Back to the Future, Marvel, Endgame, Infinity War, Captain America, A-list composer. 5 to 10 seconds of the Mission Impossible score that he wrote, Tom Cruise fired him. And he did not watch it to picture or anything, okay? He only listened to 5 to 10 seconds of it over a cell phone in the theater, and he was fired. And then Danny Elfman was hired to score it. He wrote the music in 2 weeks, and then that became the score to Mission Impossible 1.
I didn't know that Danny Elfman did Mission Impossible.
Yeah, first one. Now, and to achieve that, he had this extremely good orchestrator who I took a course from. His name Stephen Scott Smalley, and Danny Elfman. He was a hummer, meaning that he would take a tape recorder and just sing and hum stuff into a tape recorder and give that recording to an orchestrator and said, "Hey, write this for orchestra."
Thanks for elaborating on what a Hummer is for our listeners, so that we didn't.
I'm sorry, I don't want to be confused about the Hummer or the car or any other alternative meaning of Hummer.
I was thinking of the alternative meaning of a Hummer.
Of course, I was like, most people probably think that. I was like, I got to clear this up immediately. All right.
Yeah.
So he's a singer. Okay, let's say that. He's singing.
He's a fluffer. Wait,
he's a fluffer. No, that's still pretty bad. He's singing all this stuff in tape recorder, and then an orchestrator listens to it, and then makes an orchestral score from this one melody, and that's how it was be able to be done in 2 weeks. But because that's a crazy amount of time to score I don't know how long it is, an hour and a half, 45-minute movie, full score.
For 2 weeks.
Yeah. This guy was extremely knowledgeable, very good at doing all that stuff. But that's stories. But then there's stories like that. Again, all the time, stuff like that's happening, and just hits close to home, being the music stuff, and having I want to hear the music Alan Silvestri wrote for Mission Impossible 1. I was like, can we even get that? Can we even find that? Does it still exist? I have no idea.
Did it get recorded?
It got recorded.
Oh, I'm sure he's got it then.
Yeah, the whole thing was done. And then it was like one of the last recording sessions of the whole thing. This whole thing went down with Tom Cruise and the cell phone. It's like, come on, are you kidding me?
Yeah,
so
that's ridiculous. Have you ever heard about how crazy Marlon Brando got later on in his?
Oh yeah, sending what's her name to pick up the Oscar at the.
Oh, that was like in the 70s or 80s when that happened.
I thought that was a nutty thing too. I was like, why would you do that? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, he was picketing he was on some about the Native people getting, how the U.S. has really screwed over the Native Americans, and it was something about that and about taking reservation land, I believe, and he had said if something happened politically, he wouldn't show up for his Oscar or something. I don't really remember.
She got booed while she was on stage. She kept trying to say what he wanted her to say, too. I remember that.
Right. Yeah. Right. I don't know. People, I don't know. It was one of those, I think it was one of the very first times that somebody got really political, too, at the Oscars. I mean, it's happened many times since, but no, like later on in his life, he just got more eccentric and more disturbed. And, by the time he did, I don't know if we were talking about documentaries on movies and stuff. And this kind of ties all of this together with how actors are crazy and the industry's crazy. There's a documentary on the filmmaker who did the remake of Island of Dr. Moreau. Have you seen that?
Yes.
Have you seen that documentary? Right? No. Val Kilmer's in it, but yeah, he's in it. He's not the filmmaker that made the movie, though. But yes.
But there's a documentary about Val Kilmer, and he goes into it. Yeah, and he goes into it quite a bit. That's all I know, what I've seen in Val Kilmer's documentary. But I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I'd be interested to hear his side of things, because in this documentary, they present Val Kilmer as a complete asshole, because he was apparently on set a complete asshole. He didn't want to do it. He tried to get out of it, but he couldn't, and so he tried to make everybody's life a living hell, and apparently he was just very arrogant. But this is at the height of Val Kilmer's career, too. So, and then they bring in Marlon Brando, who's like an insane person at this point, and wearing a muumuu, and he decided that he wanted to have white makeup on his face, which wasn't part of it, and he took this ice bucket thing and put it on his head and put ice in it, and he just did all this weird stuff that was like never part of the movie and just completely like took over. And so that was one of the many problems that happened with that movie. But his last movie that he did was I think it's called The Score, or
Robert
with
De Niro
Edward Norton.
Edward Norton.
Yeah, that movie. In that movie, from what I've heard, he shows up and he tells the director that he'll do the movie, and but he comes on set and he's like, "Okay, I've got 5 scenes in this movie. You get 2 where I wear pants." And so the director's like, "Excuse me? Like, what?" And he's like, I'm gonna wear pants in 2 scenes. That's it. I'm gonna wear pants in 2 scenes. And the rest of it, I'm not gonna wear pants. I don't like pants. I'm not gonna wear pants. And so the director's like, oh, okay. So they had to rewrite one of his scenes to be in a freaking sauna, and then they rewrote another scene to be in a car, and like all this stuff just to okay, yes, Mr. Brando, please, whatever insane dumbass thing you want, and it's because these people, I mean, they get paid an astronomical amount of money, like the big stars, it's like sports stars too. It's like our whole notion and the way that our society treats celebrities is insane. I want to be a working actor. I want to get paid to do what I do, and a director. I don't care to make billions and billions of dollars. I don't need that. But you make that much money and you lose touch of your fucking humanity. It's like you basically go insane. You cannot. It's like people like Trump or any of these rich people. It's just like, you make so much money, you feel like you're God. You can buy anything or anyone or any situation. You start to lose. It's like a child that is never told no. You become more than a spoiled brat because you're an adult, and your world is like people just, they want a little bit of what you have, and oh my God. It's crazy how it can change people. Even normal people can become. I don't believe that Marlon Brando in the beginning of his career was that insane. I mean, maybe he was, but I know other actors that have done the same thing, that just become this like megalomaniac weird, or just like, even if they're not like a megalomaniac, they become this weird version of themselves where it's like they're more like a cartoon of who they used to be, as opposed to being a real individual anymore.
Like Wesley Snipes in Blade 3, and he would only talk to anyone as Blade, and he was trying to they were trying to finish the movie. And, and he's just like this insane guy. He's like, I'm Blade, he kept telling people, I'm the director, I'm Blade. And Ryan Reynolds is in there, and he's like helping save the movie, like coming up with all this funny stuff.
Ryan Reynolds is the only good part of that movie, and he doesn't fit the movie at all, but he is the only watchable thing in that third movie.
And all that stuff is, agreed. And he's improvising all this stuff in there. He's like this, none of that's in the script. He's just coming up with this off the cuff because he's Ryan Reynolds. He's that freaking funny. But Wesley Snipes wouldn't talk to anybody, wouldn't talk to the director. He says, I'll only talk to me as Blade. And then the director said, okay, we've already shot everything we need to you. You can go home. We'll do the rest with a stuntman. And he's like, oh, no. Okay, I need to be, he kind of backtracked a little bit. Hey, I need to be in this. I'm the main star and everything. So I hear you on that crazy actor stuff. That's crazy. And then going back to the
get that way too. All levels of people can, in the entertainment industry get that way because it's a celebrity thing, Yeah. It's like, they become more than themselves. It's,
And even going back to that Marlon Brando movie, The Score, I was like, okay, yeah, that's Marlon Brando. I was like, it's not that great a part. I was like, he's not doing something so groundbreaking. I'm like, oh my God, it's Marlon Brando doing this unbelievable part. I was like, anybody could have played that part and maybe even done a better job than him. So I don't know. He's just trying to hang on to the last bit of his career, seemingly. And Wesley Snipes too. So
yeah, actually, Marlon Brando at that point, people were just begging him to be in a movie because they wanted his name. He wasn't. He has his own. I think he owned his own private island.
Oh, really?
And I don't know that he had money problems. I mean, maybe he did, but I think that he was just kind of, I'm alive still, and people would reach out to him, and he'd be like, yeah, okay, I'll do your movie, or whatever.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there's some movies that even when he was younger, I'm like, why the hell did you go with Marlon Brando? Like Sky Masterson in the original Guys and Dolls movie. I'm sorry, but he's luck be a lady tonight. He's singing like that. He doesn't sound good. He looks good. I mean, he's a handsome devil, but come on. I mean, he's just like the Godfather singing, luck if you've ever been a lady to begin with, luck be a lady tonight. It's so stupid. And everybody's like, oh, he's so brilliant in that movie. And I'm like, bullshit, he's brilliant. He sounds like the freaking Corleone singing luck be a lady tonight. It's so dumb. I mean, that movie's fine. It's fine, but he's not good in it, I don't think. But he's good in other things. I mean, obviously, there's so many great movies and great performances of him. But Yeah, I've never been one of those people that's really like just enamored by Marlon Brando, though. Like some people are just, but he was at that time though when the industry was changing into more of a realism, right? From being that very affected thing that went all the way up into the 50s, and then right around the 50s it started to change, in the 60s definitely, to realism, what we quote realism in movies, because before we had that whole affected kind of, no, you mustn't go in there, but I have to go in there, no, that very, oh my god, it's a monster kind of thing, and even dramas were heightened, and frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn, all that kind of stuff. And then we started getting more into gritty realism, and he was part of that wave of and method, which I'm not a method actor. I do little tricks to get into character, but I'm not a person that has to, be method. But I think to each their own. If you need to do weird shit to get in, but not like Jared Leto. I mean, fuck that guy. I'm sorry. I'm not a Jared Leto fan. I don't think that he's that great of an actor. He's a good actor. He's talented, but he's also a complete prick. And all the stuff he does in movies and stuff that I've heard, like when he was the Joker and stuff, it's like, come on, that is just unprofessional bullshit that puts other people at risk and makes other people not be able to do their job effectively. It's just garbage. It's garbage.
And he was sending Margot Robbie like dead animals or something crazy.
Used condoms, dead animal carcasses. He did all sorts of stuff, like not just her, sending it to other people in the cast, not being professional, not showing up at times, showing up at weird times, doing all sorts of stuff. I mean, there's all sorts of horror stories about what that guy does.
Yeah. So I couldn't agree more with that. But one more thing that made me think of Marlon Brando was the first Superman movie where he was Jor-El.
Yes.
But he would not do it unless he got paid, like, I think over $1 million at that time for like 1979, over $1 million. And what did he have? Just very few lines. But man, you see him in that role and you believe he is Superman's father.
I still believe it. I still believe it.
He deserved that money for that role, and he put up a whole big stink about doing it and not getting paid enough. I was like, pay the man what he wants, or you wouldn't have known it not having seen the result, right? Mm-hmm. You like if you hadn't paid that much, you wouldn't have got the result you got. But you can't see it any other way now because he was so awesome and just such a tiny little role, but such a key thing in the whole lexicon of Superman. It's like, that's Jor-El. I don't care what Russell Crowe did in The Man of Steel. Doesn't even compare to what Marlon Brando did in this short amount of time in Superman 1. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm not a big Superman fan, but I do have to agree. I mean, not the movie. The movie's fine. The movie's fine. The character's boring as shit to me. But
okay.
But yeah, like he's just too good. He's just like all American boy kind of thing. Is just boring as hell. Give me Batman any day. But not every Batman
I love Batman.
But not every Batman movie. But yes, no, I agree with you. His performance is quite good. I don't know if it's $1 million good. I don't know for like 4 lines or however many, like 4 minutes of screen time. I don't know. But he's Marlon Brando, and at that point, it's like, whoa, we got Marlon Brando to play this part? Yeah, okay. I mean, the movie was a huge budget movie, and it wound up being a huge success and had 3 other sequels after that with the same cast and crew. And yeah, I mean, was that Richard Donner? Did Donner do that movie?
Yeah. Richard Donner did that, and it really, in my opinion, started the whole truly live-action superhero franchise. I mean, everything kind of spawned from that. Okay, yes, Batman came out a few years later with Michael Keaton and all the Marvel movies now, but without Superman, Christopher Reeve's Superman, Richard Donner, and that whole thing, I don't think Marvel would exist. The DC movies, or maybe not. I don't think those kind of movies would exist without Superman, in my opinion.
I mean, I could see that. I mean, definitely not in the incarnation that they are, for sure. Yeah. Because, you have those waves of it. You had the Batman 60s TV show that came out before Superman, but it was cheesy and campy and goofy and cartoony, but it was fun. But the comic books back then were like that too. The comic books started getting gritty in the 80s, or maybe the 70s with Batman, but the 80s started getting grittier. And I think that, definitely the Superman did that, advanced it. Then we get Batman 89 Batman 89 changed superhero movies to being dark. And because nobody really died in Superman, it was still comic booky. Even though it was a big movie deal, it was still comic booky. But then we get Batman and Batman Returns, and then Schumacher just shit the bed on his last 2 that he did. And God, Oh, it's awful. But so then we have those movies, and then we wait a long time again, and then we have the X-Men movies come out, and without the X-Men movies, and we won't talk about Brett Ratner's third X-Men movie, which was a travesty. And he's just a travesty of a human being anyway, but you get those movies, and then we wait a little bit more, and then they take a gamble with Iron Man, and Iron Man was a great movie.
Yeah.
And that really started the ball rolling. I don't think they knew what they had when they did Iron Man. I know that they wanted to do more, but it's like if Iron Man failed, and Iron Man wasn't a character that had the level of Superman and Batman. Like, he wasn't up there with them. I mean, as far as,
Well, and apparently they didn't even really have a script written out. They were just kind of winging it as they went along. And, Robert Downey Jr., very good improviser as well, just kind of improvising. Like a formally written script. They were just kind of had maybe an outline or something, but nothing really solidified. And then they just kind of, while they're shooting, let's do this. Maybe we should change it to this. I remember hearing something along those lines, that it wasn't really, everything wasn't written out when they first started shooting that movie. They didn't really know.
Oh, wow.
And then when Robert Downey Jr. got done with it, he thought, this is going to tank. This is going to be a failure. He thought it was going to fail when they were done shooting it. So
no, he had
never know.
He had like two franchises pop right at the same time with that and Sherlock Holmes. They were like 1-2 punch for him. I mean, he was, and the Comeback Kid. I mean, Robert Downey Jr. is, and I think he's a brilliant actor. I really do.
Me too.
I love Robert.
And I think he deserves every dollar he gets. I think he got $80 million or something for Infinity Wars.
That's so crazy.
And whoever knows whatever he got for Endgame, I'm sure it was even more. So it's like,
I mean,
but man,
it's just crazy to me. That people make that much money. I mean, I'll never see that much money in my life.
I know.
Never see that much money in my life, and yet we've got people that are, using their imagination for fun. And getting it, and I mean that's what we do, and it's a great industry. It's very fun. I love being in the industry. It's fun, and it's a lot of hard work. But I mean, it's no more hard work than being a plumber every day. It's no more hard work than that. It's no more hard work than being, a sales rep or something like that, and never being off the clock and working long days or through the night as a statistician. It's not. But our level of just glorifying celebrities, I just baffles me that people make that much money. And cool that people do, it's fine, but just think with that money, if it wasn't pouring into those, if everything was a little bit more I'm not going to get into all this, but like there's a lot of people that need help out there, and it's like and I'm talking sports too. I'm not just talking all entertainment, and even other roles. It's just like if we got paid, I don't know, a little bit more what we need and not just what we want. It's after a certain point, it's just like, ooh, I have all this money. What am I going to do with it? Squirrel it away, put it in a Scrooge McDuck tower and swim through it. What are you going to do with that much money on one movie? $80 million. He's set for life. He doesn't have to do shit. I mean, he doesn't have to. Granted, his house probably cost him a pretty penny, or all 12 of them across the world, or however many he has, but I don't want to take anything from anybody else either. I'm not like, take it, give it away. But it's just like something seems a little broken when we have that level of disparity in pay ranges. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just me. I don't know.
I agree. I agree totally. I don't know what the answer is. I mean, but if he wasn't in it, I don't think those movies would be nearly as successful. One guy, one guy being in all those movies, the whole Marvel franchise.
And that's the piece of it, right? Those movies make a ton of money because movies do make a lot of big movies like that. They make a lot of money. They cost a lot of money, but they make a lot of money. And so the people whose backs those movies are banked on, in the sense of audiences, who are audiences going to see? Well, they're going to see special effects. They're going to see characters they grew up with, but they're going to see the actors play these parts. And so when you get names that are big names, or names that become big names because of these movies, we want to see those people play those parts. And Robert Downey Jr. definitely is the backbone of that entire Marvel universe, or was,
and I was a huge fan of it. I wanted to be involved with it in any way. I was lucky enough to be an orchestrator on Guardians of the Galaxy 2. And I still want to do something with it one way or another. But I remember going to see Endgame, and it was a 2:30 a.m. showing because I really wanted to see it.
Yeah, jeez.
Yeah, and the day of, it was like 2:30 a.m. to go see it. I was like, who's going to be there? The entire theater was packed. I was following all the way along, and I had rescored one of the trailers. I loved it so much. I was able to rescore one of the trailers. I was like, maybe somebody will see it, then I can be involved in it somehow, blah, blah, blah. Pipe dream, whatever. But anyway, just really wanted to see the movie. And then, I think what you're saying, people's attachment to that character. I was there next to these two wonderful people who were, joyously chatting through the whole movie and annoying me the entire time. But by the end of it,
annoying you.
Yes. They love, I really think that people just love annoying people in movie theaters when they just have their own little conversations and
be on their phones.
Look at their phone. That's a whole nother podcast complaining about
bitching about moviegoers these days.
Going to the movies. Yeah. But anyway, by the end of it, this girl, it was a couple, this woman, of this two bawling when Robert Downey Jr. died. 3 women behind me.
Oh, spoiler alert, listeners! Spoiler alert.
Oh, sorry if you haven't seen Endgame.
Like
Robert Downey Jr.
old or something, 2 years old,
dies at the end of it. I'm sorry. Sorry to spoil that for you, but I couldn't believe that. Like, these women are just bawling, just out of their minds, crying over this thing because they're so attached to that character and that guy playing that character. So I hear what you're saying, but that's. Yeah, the money shouldn't be so extravagant, but it is. And then you see effects like that. I'm like, well, this has happened in all movie theaters across the world. People are so attached to that thing. I'm sure some guys were crying too, So.
Right. I mean, there's worse things I guess we could put our money towards, but yeah, I don't know. It could buy a lot of cheeseburgers for homeless people,
Yeah.
It could buy a lot of homes.
Could
buy a lot of homes for homeless people too. But, we're more interested in selfish pursuits, I guess. But I'm not going away giving my money. If I get anything extra, I squirrel it away. I buy things that I want. So I mean, I'm sure if I was making $1 million, I'd be doing the same thing. In different ways. And I know that a lot of people, and I know Robert Downey Jr. does this too. They give a lot to charity. They do that, But just to make that much money on one movie is just crazy. It's crazy. Outrageous. But then again, he's doing other things. He's not just acting in the movie. He's also a producer on the movie. And so there's a lot of hats that a lot of control, a lot of decision making, all sorts of stuff. And so when you wear multiple hats, you should get paid for all the jobs that you do. And on a big movie like that, there's a lot of money going around to a lot of different people, And I don't think, hopefully, even craft services people aren't making just minimum wage on that thing. That's why there's unions involved in the entertainment industry, because unions do take care of us. So yeah. I mean, I'm a big union supporter. I'm in the acting unions, and I very much support the unions. They protect people but yeah. Anyway, that's my 2 cents on unions. Well, so today we've talked about. Being a husky child, we've talked about growing old and being a little wiser. We've talked about going to the movies and how our tastes change over the years. We've talked about superhero movies. We've talked about insane actors. I mean, we've run the gamut, but I think that when it boils down to it, it's we're talking about growing old and going to the movies, those 2 things and how our our perception on life changes as we get older and the things that, people that we thought once were cool had all the answers, people that we thought, like celebrities, that, and how we thought movies get made or any of our art forms, anything that we consume is done. And then like, as you get older, you find out new information. You're like, holy shit, I had no idea. I had no idea that guy was a complete asshole. I had no idea that this movie almost didn't get made because of this. I had no idea that, Robert Downey Jr. makes $80 million a movie or something
Crazy.
Like that,
I know.
So, yeah, I don't know. I'm just trying to synthesize it all together to close out this bad boy because we've been chatting for a while. But it is always great to talk to you, Brian. It is. And today's conversation definitely took like these crazy twists and turns. But that's the way it is. That's the way it is.
I love it. I love talking about all this stuff, any subject. I think we can make it work, whatever the subject,
Yeah,
That's
man.
why we're doing
I always
all
have
this.
A good time.
We make it work.
Yeah, so those of you out there that are listening, if you got some strong opinions on what you've heard to date, or you just want to chat with us, hit us up. We're going to be creating a Discord for the show, and of course, we'll have our email available in the show notes. And so hit us up and chat with us. We'd love to chat about some things that maybe you are interested in too. And we've got some fun ideas coming up for future shows. So we'll see you next time. We'll chat some more. And Bryan, as always, good to talk to you, man.
Good to talk to you. This is the greatest episode yet.
Onwards and upwards.